You're standing in a courtroom in Virginia. The year is 1640. A man named John Punch is about to receive his sentence. He ran away from his master alongside two other men, two white indentured servants. All three were caught. All three are standing here now, waiting to learn their fate. The judge speaks. The two white men get 4 extra years added to their servitude. John Punch, the black man who committed the exact same crime, who ran alongside them, who was caught with them, receives a different sentence, servitude for the rest of his natural life. This is the moment. One of the first recorded instances in American history where the color of a person's skin determined their legal fate. Not culture, not religion, not class, skin. But here's the thing nobody tells you. This distinction, it had to be invented. Someone had to sit in a room and decide that skin color should matter this much. Because for most of human history, it didn't. Go back further. Ancient Egypt. The pharaohs are building monuments that will outlast empires. Their kingdom stretches across continents, and people of every skin tone walk through their markets, serve in their armies, rise through their priesthoods. The Egyptians had words for foreigners. They looked down on people who didn't speak their language, who didn't worship their gods. But the idea that darker skin meant inferior humanity, that concept doesn't exist yet. It hasn't been invented. Rome, same story. The empire spans from Britain to North Africa. Emperors with ancestors from what we now call Libya rule over pale-skinned subjects from Germania. Roman citizens come in every shade imaginable, and citizenship, not color, determines your place in society. A dark-skinned man born in Rome has more rights than a light-skinned barbarian from the north. This isn't progressive politics, it's just how they organize their world. Race, as a system, isn't operating yet. The Greeks enslaved people too, lots of people, but they enslaved other Greeks. They enslaved anyone they could conquer. The philosopher Aristotle argued some people were natural slaves, but he meant it based on character, on culture, on the circumstances of their defeat in war, not on the permanent, inherited trait of skin color passing through bloodlines forever. But here's where it gets strange. Jump forward to the early American colonies, the 1600s, Jamestown, Virginia. Tobacco plantations need labor, and they're getting it from two sources. Poor white people from England and Ireland who sign contracts for temporary servitude, and African people who are being kidnapped and shipped across an ocean. And for decades, these two groups work together. They eat together. They have children together. They run away together. And in 1676, they burn down the colonial capital together. It's called Bacon's Rebellion. Black slaves and white servants, united by their shared misery, their shared exploitation, rise up against the wealthy plantation owners. They don't see themselves as different races. They see themselves as the same class. The poor, the used, the disposable. They almost win. And the plantation owners, watching their world nearly collapse, learn a terrifying lesson. These two groups, working together, are dangerous. A unified poor is an existential threat. Something has to be done. And it gets weirder, because what happens next isn't a battle. It's a series of laws. Exposed, deliberate, strategic. The Virginia colony starts passing statutes. Black people can no longer own guns. Black people can no longer gather in groups. Black people who were previously servants with end dates are now converted to permanent, hereditary slavery. The thing that happened to John Punch becomes the norm. But here's the key. At the same time, poor white people are given new privileges, small ones. The right to beat a black person without legal consequence. The right to patrol slave populations. The right to feel, for the first time, that they are fundamentally different from and superior to the people working beside them. This is the invention. This is the moment race gets built. Not discovered, built. Brick by legal brick. statute by statute. The wealthy plantation class, terrified of unified rebellion, constructs a wall between poor whites and enslaved blacks, and that wall is race. They give poor white people just enough psychological currency, just enough feeling of superiority that they stop seeing enslaved black people as fellow sufferers and start seeing them as a lower species, a different category of human. It works. Here's the part nobody talks about. This wasn't enough. The economic machine of slavery needed intellectual cover. It needed to seem natural, inevitable, scientific. So in the 1700s and 1800s, Europe's great minds get to work. They measure skulls. They categorize facial features. They create elaborate taxonomies dividing humanity into races with ranked characteristics. Caucasoid, Negroid, Mongoloid. They draw charts. They write papers. They teach this in universities. They call it science. But here's what they're actually doing. They're reverse engineering a justification. The economic system came first. The exploitation came first. The need for free labor to build colonial empires came first. Then the science was invented to make it all feel like nature, to make it feel like the hierarchy wasn't a choice made by powerful men in powerful rooms, but simply the way things are, the way things have always been, the way things must be. Swedish botanist Carl Linnaeus, the father of modern taxonomy, the man who gave us the system for classifying every living thing, he also classified humans. And in his classification, Europeans are governed by laws, Africans are governed by impulse, Asians are governed by opinion. This is presented as objective observation, as science. It's taught for centuries. It's a story someone made up. And the most disturbing part? It worked so well that we forgot it was invented. The categories became invisible. They became the water we swim in. They became the thing we see when we look in the mirror. Sit with this for a second. The racial identity you carry with you right now, the box you check on forms, the assumptions people make when they see your face, the history you inherit, the doors that open or close before you even speak. That identity, the one that feels ancient, the one that feels like it was carved into the bedrock of human civilization, was invented by specific people with names, in specific rooms, with specific economic interests, less than 400 years ago. That's 15 generations. That's nothing. That's yesterday in the scope of human history. You are not living inside a natural category. You are living inside a business decision, a political strategy, a tool designed to prevent poor people from realizing they have more in common with each other than with the people exploiting them. Race is not biology. It is history, and history was written by people with something to gain. You're back in that Virginia courtroom, 1640. John Punch is receiving his sentence, life. But now you see it differently. You see the men in that room, the wealthy landowners, the colonial officials, and you see them doing math. Not moral reasoning, math. They're calculating how to extract maximum labor. They're building a system. They're writing a story about human difference that will outlive them by centuries. John Punch didn't know his sentence would become a template, that this moment would be studied, would be replicated, would become law after law after law, until an entire civilization was organized around the color line that was drawn here, in this room, on this day. He just knew he was going to die in bondage, while the men who ran beside him would one day go free. The difference wasn't destiny, it was design. And here's the final thing to carry with you. Every system that feels permanent was once an experiment. Every natural hierarchy was once a proposal in a room. The world you inherited, the one that sorts people by color, the one that assigns value and danger and capability based on melanin, that world was assembled, deliberately, recently, which means it can be disassembled. Not because the people who built it were uniquely evil. They were doing what powerful people have always done, protecting their power, but because we now know what they knew and tried to hide. that race is a technology, a tool, and tools can be put down. You just have to see them first. If this is the kind of thing your brain does at 2 a.m., you're in the right place. That question that won't let you sleep, the one about how the world got this way, about what's real and what's invented, about who decided and why. We chase those here. Subscribe. There's more where this came from.